friends. I'm Coach Marcia, and I'm hopping on here today to talk about one of my favorite marathons, and that's the Marine Corps Marathon. I ran the Marine Corps Marathon only once, and that was back in 2012. And luckily for me, it was the last year before it went to a lottery. So entry can be kind of hard to get because of the lottery. There are some other ways, I believe, active duty and reserve service people can get a preferred entry. There's also the Marine Corps Runners Club. I think if you've done 5 or more of their races, you have guaranteed entry. And then, of course, there's always the charity route. This race is super well done and probably the most inspiring race I have ever done. The course is wonderful. If you're training for Marine Corps, I recommend you train hills. It's not a hilly course per se. However, there are slow, gradual inclines. Like miles 1 to 3, you are slowly on the uphill, so you're inclining. So training hills and building some strength and endurance running uphill is a great idea. Let's start with the expo. Back when I did it, it was at the DC Armory, which I don't think is the case anymore. I think it's gone to a larger venue. Back at the Armory, it was more of a medium-ish expo. So I just remember there not being a ton of stuff. I think that's all changed. There are 30,000 runners now. I don't know if that was a smaller race back in 2012. Probably was. So so you're going to get your bib and whatever at the expo. I certainly, back in my day, I got the Marine Corps Marathon mock turtleneck, which I absolutely loved. I know their swag has changed for the better or worse over time, but I think the iteration of the medal is pretty much the same, and it is amazing. It's one of my very favorite race medals, so enjoy that. Let's talk about, well, leading up to race day, if you get into DC, you probably want to do sightseeing. Of course, you want to stay off your feet as much as possible to keep your body fresh. What I did is my husband and my kids went and did a lot of sightseeing, and I limited myself to riding the hop-on, hop-off bus to limit my walking and the time on my feet leading up to race day. So they did a lot more sightseeing than I allowed myself to do before the race. After the race is a different story. However, my next tip is going to be, and this is something pretty much for all marathons, even though Marine Corps happens at the end of October, one would think temperatures would be generally cool at that time of year. However, the year I ran it in 2012 was the year of Hurricane Sandy. So I ran that race with Hurricane Sandy bearing down. So it was very windy, drizzly, ominous race. And it kind of inspired me to keep going and finish the darn thing. And we ended up evacuating because they kind of closed down the city. I think we had a Capitol tour the next day, which was canceled. Our flight home was canceled. Like, the government shut down. So what happened was, as I was running the race, my husband checked out of the hotel. We rented a car because our flight was canceled. We rented a car, and essentially he picked me up at the finish line, and we evacuated and drove all the way home to Chicago. So it was a Hurricane Sandy year. Now I've got the crazy story to tell. So my point of all that is get your head around changeable weather. Many Marine Corps marathons have been hot. Sometimes they're rainy, sometimes they're perfect. I had the hurricane year. It's all good. Finishing is winning, right? So I finished. So let's go to race morning. I took the Metro there to the Pentagon. It was easy breezy. The whole train was filled with runners, so there's really no question of where to get off. You just follow the runners. I've since learned that that's a 2-mile walk from getting off the train to the Pentagon. With the excitement and adrenaline of race day, I never would have guessed that it was that far. It sure as heck doesn't feel like when you're full of energy and anticipation. But the walk is that long, and you kind of use it as your warm-up. You could even do a little walk runs there and call it good with your warm-up if you want to. I remember the staging area when you get to like the runner's village. There were plenty of porta potties, gear check, and then you get in your corral, and it's kind of like right between the Pentagon and Arlington Cemetery. So that's the start line. And that, as I said before, miles 1 through 3 is a slight uphill. Now, because we have Marines manning the water stations, it's just so super inspiring. It really just took the edge off. Like, who am I to complain about how tired I am when we have these men and women who have sacrificed for our country handing me water and cheering me on? I mean, all I could do is be so grateful for their service, and they're standing and giving me water. I mean, it was just amazing. So the first thing I want you to do as you are running along is just be grateful. The course is gorgeous. It's probably the single race where I would say there's the most to see and run in quiet contemplation and just take it all in. You hit the Blue Mile along the Potomac. That's mile 12 through 13. And shortly after that, I think miles 17 through 19 is the National Mall, which is amazing. I say this about every marathon, it is the best tour you're gonna get of a city. Well, Marine Corps is no different. It is the best tour you're gonna get of the Washington, D.C. area, of Georgetown, of Arlington. Like I said, run in quiet contemplation, take in all the monuments. It's really good, even with Hurricane Sandy bearing down on you. So I said miles 1 to 3, because it is a gradual uphill. You have the energy and the adrenaline and the excitement to run this too fast. Do your best to run conservatively. Hold back on your pace, a good 10 to 15 seconds per mile for the first, because I just don't want you to go out too fast and you're going uphill. So you're really going to tire your body out unless you really hold back in this area. When you get to miles 3 to 8, again, stay conservative. Just kind of keep it under control through Georgetown, because it's just so easy to be enthusiastic and fresh and go too fast, and then you're going to pay for that later. As you get into the mall, it gets very, very exciting all the way through mile 20. And then I remember when you start heading to Crystal City, which is, I think it's 21 through 23. I just remember getting hangry. It's kind of like when I ran New York City and you get to Central Park and the end is sort of near, but sort of not. And you're kind of like ready to be done and you're getting tired and your mental focus kind of wavers right there. So it gets challenging to hold your mental and physical game together in Crystal City. And after you head out, I remember it seemed like I was running on a highway, a tollway, and it was just kind of soul sucking. There were no spectators there. You knew you were ready to be done, but you weren't at the finish. And it was just like the struggle becomes very real there. So this is where all the energy you conserved earlier in the race, this is where it's going to help you hold your pace, fight for that pace, and keep that good mental headspace. The mental game is really everything to hold it together in these really late, tough miles of a marathon. Also, miles 21 through 24, again, slight uphill. And after you've come 20 miles to go slight uphill, you're going to feel that and you're not going to be happy about it. So like I said, train those hills, train the endurance for a slow incline, because at that time when you're so tired, that kind of training is really going to pay off. And then I can't say this enough. I knew there was a big hill at the very end at mile 26 to 26.2, like literally 26 to the finish, which sounds like the teeniest, tiniest bit. But it is a major hill. It is like a vertical climb up to the war memorial up there. It's just, when you're tired like that, when you've run 26 miles and you've got a 0.2, but you look at this thing and it looks like vertical, just get your head around that now and imagine, because it's just going to magnify, the fatigue will magnify just how big this hill is. And it's kind of fitting for a race like that to struggle up this enormous hill at 26 so you can come in for the finish. But get your head around a big ass hill there, because it's going to feel really big. But you know what? You can do it. It's 0.2 in the scheme of a whole marathon. Just save it. If you're mentally prepared for that, it's going to help. And then you come in for the finish. One of the highlights of the Marine Corps Marathon is getting your medal from a Marine. And it's a wonderful photo opportunity. So just ask the person in line behind you or whoever to get a picture of you with your very own Marine with the medal presentation. It's an iconic and fantastic moment to enjoy. We got ponchos that year. Like I said, it was a drizzly, very windy, Hurricane Sandy kind of day. I remember the finish area being very muddy, and also the whole finish party, if you will, was kind of like not happening because everybody was like getting out of Dodge. Typically, I would have taken the Metro back to the hotel, and I think that's quick and easy to do. However, with everyone evacuating, if you will, the line for that Metro was several blocks long. And like I told you before, my husband had rented a car, and I don't know where he had it, but it was kind of like he found me, and we literally I got in the car with my poncho and my sweaty clothes on, and we just got out of Dodge. We like literally evacuated at that finish line. And I don't think we stopped driving. It was very stormy, very rainy. I don't think we stopped driving until we hit Ohio. So it's a crazy story. It was a crazy race, but it is, Marine Corps is so well done. If it's on your bucket list, definitely get in that lottery or run for charity. However you can score an entry, I recommend you do it. It is one for the ages. It, like I said, is one of my absolute favorites. Super well done, incredibly inspiring, and the best tour ever of Washington, D.C. I hope that helps you. If you have any questions at all that I can answer, like I said, I've run it many years ago. However, I've coached many people since then to run that race, so I can answer some questions. Just put them in the comments. Hope this helped you. If you're running this year, have a wonderful race.